During his journey to Italy, Charles Burney wrote about the visit to Vatican Library. The manuscripts in this celebrated library are so numerous, and many of them in such disorder, that to find the treatise I wished would have been a work of years. Since then, fortunately, the valorization of music manuscript has evolved, but many documents are still to be discovered in Italian archives and libraries. Two analyses on this subject have been presented in the past by Federica Riva. The first at the IAM-LEIASA International Conference in 1996, and the second at the RISM 50th Anniversary Conference. In light of new discoveries and of the evolution of the National Catalogue SBN, it is now necessary to make a further update. This is a work in progress that started in July 2022. It concerns music manuscript from the 17th to the 20th century. The working method consists in two main steps. I carried out my research on bibliographic records in the OPACs SBN, managed by the Central Institute for Libraries ICU and RISM Online, whereas I checked all the library siglas in the Ufficio Ricerca Fondi Musicali database, ICU, Anagrafe delle Biblioteche Italiane, and RISM. In the first step, I completed a table with the RISM library siglas and the International Standard Identifier for Libraries. Issues appears. If we search RISM siglas in the URFM and RISM databases, we get different results. In the URFM database, we find 2,102 siglas, both official and not fully verified, versus 2,059 in the RISM databases. It was necessary to check each of them because there were sometimes disagreements in their creation, although Ufficio Ricerca Fondi Musicali is historically the Italian supervisor on behalf of RISM for National Library siglas. I am going to show you only a starting point of a bigger picture. In fact, I have selected 5 Italian regions to analyze. The regions are Lazio, Lombardy, Piedmont, Tuscany, and Veneto. The diagram shows us the incremental number of libraries with manuscript records in the SBN database or RISM in the 5 regions I have chosen. I checked the total number of monographic and analytic records for each library on SBN ICU OPAC and RISM Online. When I found no manuscript in both OPACs, I checked their presence on Cabimus, a guide to Italian libraries and archives published in 2004 by the Istituto di Bibliografia Musicale. Currently, in OPAC SBN, there are 251,778 records, while in RISM, there are 153,180. The considerable difference between the two numbers compels us to reflect. In fact, in this pie chart, several results can be seen. The percentage of libraries that have more records in SBN, that have many in RISM, and that only have access in SBN or RISM. Why does the situation appear? The reasons are both historical and organizational. Since 1975, the title cards were shared among Evidio Surian, who was the Italian head of RISM at this time, Giancarlo Rostirolla for Istituto di Bibliografia Musicale in Rome and the Ufficio Ricerca Fondi Musicali in Milan, coordinated by Claudio Sartori. The three sent a card to each other, and the amount of card was very high to manage. Unfortunately, sometimes there have been issues with the shipments, which can explain inaccuracies in the catalogs. In 1986, it was decided to convert in an electronic format the IBIMUS title cards, which consisted of about 80,000 cards. It was incomplete compared to the one still kept at the Ufficio Ricerca Fondi Musicali, a catalog of about 160,000 cards. Last but not least, RISM's initial choice was to include in the A2 series only music manuscripts approximately dated up to the year 1800. In Italy, we are proud to have a national catalog based on cooperative cataloging, with all special fees needed to catalog all types of music researches. However, some libraries decided to catalog their manuscript materials on local databases, or to use Picado to catalog directly in the RISM database without sending the data to SBN. For instance, there were the cases in Lazio at the Accademia Filarmonica Romana, or in the archive of the Basilica San Giovanni in Laterano and the library of the Abbey of Monte Cassino. The Picado example was already mentioned by Federica Riva in her 1996 study. This case is particularly interesting if we think there are still more than 21,000 manuscript records missing in our national OPAC. In fact, if we compare the results between then and now, we realize there has been no progress for these libraries in our catalog since 1996. It is important to remind that since July 2016, ICU, IAM Italia, and RISM have signed an agreement to collaborate on integrating data in SBN and RISM catalogs. This agreement involves selecting and importing in SBN the records from Italian libraries that are currently only available in RISM OPAC and vice versa. The results also indicate that several libraries have begun cataloging projects of resources that have never been cataloged before, thanks to regional or private funding. In Milan Conservatory, about 1,630 manuscripts have been cataloged in the last 4 years. The Conservatory of Turin, which joined OPAC SBN only in 2018, has launched cataloging projects for the main manuscript collection. At present, both cataloging projects are not yet published in RISM Online. By browsing through the collected data, I noticed a curious fact. Libraries without results in RISM and SBN were the majority, even though the Cabimus guide indicated the presence of manuscript resources. I asked myself, isn't the RISM aim and all what exists and where it is kept? How could I get to this focus for Italy? First of all, it was necessary to face the problem of paper catalogs and databases born from local data collection or for thematic national projects, which have never been transferred into RISM or SBN. For the second phase of work, I retrieved about 300 Italian collections in these conditions. I indicate for each result the library code, easy code, and the cataloging status in SBN and RISM. If possible, I verify the presence of the manuscript in the card catalog of the Ufficio Ricerca Fondi Musicali. At this point, it was necessary to update the list of individual libraries with the data of the collections. To facilitate the comparison, I considered the items and not the bibliographic records. Despite this, when I compared the data, the results were surprising. It is interesting to notice that the libraries in the SBN network with music manuscript collection are numerous. However, here you could see the difference between what we have in a national or in the RISM OPAC and what is missing. The number increases considerably if we consider the paper catalogs or other databases. The total amount of manuscript resources not yet researchable online could be of over 50,000 documents. Actually, the number should be higher because I analyzed only 5 out of 20 regions. We have many different situations. Now I'm going to show you some significant examples. The first example concerned manuscript collection missing in RISM and SBN, but reported in regional census. Tuscany started a data collection campaign years ago, and the results are available on the Sedumus website. Unfortunately, most collections have never been catalogued, neither in RISM nor SBN. Tuscan music libraries with manuscript collection are over the 50%. However, only 10 of these have record in SBN, in RISM or in both databases. The approximated number of manuscripts that are now missing in both OPACs could be over 15,000. A second issue concerned resources missing in SBN and RISM, but cataloged in other ICU databases. The case of the National University Library of Turin has been the most representative. The library keeps the famous Foix Giordano collection, one of the most important testimonies of music production during the 17th-18th century. These collections were described in a paper catalog published in 1987, and it's partially accessible online on Internet Culturale, the ICU digital library. The National University Library took part in cataloging activities of the project SBN Musica. Unluckily, the late delivery of data and the consequent impossibility to upload them is the reason why we don't have now any record in RISM and SBN OPACs. Among these records, there should be the most significant group of Vivaldi's autograph in Italy, and 10 volumes partially autographed by Antonio Stradella. Veneto is one of the regions with the highest number of printed catalogs, with a total of about 30 titles. Almost 70% of these collections are not catalogued in the Italian OPAC, nor in RISM. I have only found a trace in URFM catalog of manuscripts regarding 2 cases: the collections of the Accademia Filarmonica and of the Padri Redentoristi di Santa Maria della Consolazione della Fava. Another example is the printed catalog of the collection of Procuratoria di San Marco, now at the Fondazione Ugo e Olga Levi. The entire number of manuscripts, almost 2,000 resources, is completely missing. The online description can only be found in Levidata, the Foundation Digital Archive, where the data of the printed catalog were transferred. After the damage of the Acqua Granda, which means high water or flood, in 2019, the Conservatory of Venice reorganized the library space. During an inspection of this library repository, colleagues Paolo Dacol and Silvio Urbani unearthed 2 groups of unknown documents. These are 2 incredible discoveries. The first one consists of 7 folders containing 360 manuscripts of the 18th century. Of these, the most important discovery is the identification of about 12 manuscripts by Baldassarre Galuppi. It was possible thanks to the research and comparison of musical incipit in the RISM carried out by Urbani and Dacol. One example is the Requiem in F major, the copy of which is known to be preserved in Dresden. Colleagues then consulted Professor Franco Rossi, an expert on Galuppi's repertoire, who verified that the manuscript corpus was autographed. The reordering work then confirmed the theory was the folder belonged to the Giustiniani collection. The work of cataloging has made it possible to reconstruct the lacking part of the already known folders. In 1952, the descendants of publisher Vincent Novello donated a larger number of manuscript documents to the Conservatory of Venice. The collection came from Novello's private library and contained around 150 autographs by double bass player Domenico Dragonetti. These were original works by composition by Corelli, Mozart, and Johann Sebastian Bach. Traces of this donation were lost until 2021, when the box was found almost forgotten on a shelf in the archive. The discovery is quite sensational because the only known Novello's donation was the one to the British Library. I want to show you an important detail. In the Venetian manuscript, Vincent Novello mentioned to the British Library in the document I am showing on the screen. The good news is that cataloging projects in SBN have been started for both collections. The Ufficio Ricerca Fondi Musicali confirms its dedication to give value of music collection. The challenge for the near future is to valorize manuscript collections nationwide. The starting point is to transfer the descriptive data from the printed catalogs to the SBN OPAC. Cooperation is needed between bibliographic and archival institutions in order to have adequate access to manuscript music resources. Finally, we need to consolidate the dialogue and collaboration between ICU and RISM, especially regarding the consistency of data between the 2 catalogs. Thank you for your attention.